Were you warming up for something? Were you warm?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
I don't know. I forgot.
You were warming up for something. We're good to go. This is the real deal, baby. We're recording. Everything's perfect. Don't stop it now.
Don't stop
the music.
No. Believe
in. Isn't that the same song? Don't stop. Believing. Oops. Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you, man. You were trying to fiddle around with the hardware here, and we were ready to go.
All right. Well, let's try again.
What would you do if I sang out of tune?
Would you stand up and walk out on me?
Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song.
And I'll try not to sing out of key.
You will try not to sing out of key. But I think you were a little bit off key there.
Well, haven't you ever heard Joe Cocker's version of Woodstock?
No, does it sound like that?
It's pretty out of key.
Is that right? Look, what do I know, man? You were on the money then. Probably.
Well, anyway, we got to give a shout out to Fred Savage and Danica Keller of the Wonder Years.
Always.
That song.
And the fact of the matter is, my favorite band is actually also called the Wonder Years. I don't know if that's a little tidbit. They're like a pop punk band. That's what people will call them. I call them more of a just plain old fashioned rock and roll. But, they're a pop punk band from Philly. Great band. If you guys haven't heard of them, check them out. The Wonder Years.
Well, the rumor is that, they're re-releasing Deadpool 2.
Why would they do that?
Because apparently China never allowed it to be released because it was too, not censored enough or whatever. They deemed it inappropriate, basically.
I can't see why.
So,
sorry, I don't know if anybody heard that, but
no, I think you're good.
All right, as long as
so apparently they're re-releasing it as a PG-13 version. So to appeal to China, they're gonna re-release the PG-13 version over there, but they're also gonna release it over here and everywhere else. But the rumor is that it's going to be sort of like The Princess Bride, where the rumor is that the opening is Deadpool. It's going to be called Once Upon a Deadpool, the movie, over here at least. So the rumor is that
you gotta stop hanging out with a bunch of washwomen and getting all these rumors, Tori.
Well, the rumor is that
hanging out at the laundromat.
The rumor is that Deadpool's gonna be reading this story to a young Fred Savage, and that story is gonna become Deadpool 2.
And it's gonna fade into the movie?
I guess.
Wow. I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't know.
I hope it's just a rumor.
It sounds pretty hilarious.
I mean, nothing will ever compare to Princess Bride. So, I actually did a movie with Peter Falk back in the day. I don't know if you know that. He's the guy who was reading the story in the beginning of the movie. Well, throughout the movie. I was way too young to really grasp any of that while I was doing it. But it's just anecdote stuff. Anyway. We're the unuseful idiots, and you're tuned in. You're live and direct. This is not only an audio recording, but this is an actual video evidence that we are here doing this live right now. And this is very exciting.
You better not commit a crime. Because now they have it on video.
I think we've already committed like 8 crimes just now. I farted. I'm juuling. FDA is going to ban these things maybe. Every frat bro in the country is going to be going nicotine crazy in a few weeks.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about this episode. You know, the midterm elections were on Tuesday. Some stuff went down.
Yeah, I would say so. I missed a class so that I could go vote because I thought that was my duty as an American. I think that was a good decision, and I voted. I did that. I did that thing. More than that, I cannot say.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you see it, Andrew Cuomo is still the governor of New York.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you see it.
And, you know, we'll get into that a little later, too.
Yes.
So...
But now a word from our sponsors.
We don't have any sponsors.
Have you ever seen a jewel? No. Do you like jeweling all over yourself? Anyway, what do you want to get into first? Because, Tori, there is a lot to talk about. I've got some things I want to bring to the table. I know you've got a lot of things you want to talk about. Where should we start first? What do you think is a good jumping off place for us? Don't start messing with the computer now because we've got work to do here. Oh my goodness, he's clicking around. What is going on? Okay. Oh, I see.
So,
okay, here we go. He's getting ready, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, drum roll, please.
Oh, our first real sound effect. That was an actual drum roll.
Yes. Now we just need a cymbal so you could. Alright, so first up is, you know, I live in New Jersey.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Oh man, where's that drum roll again?
I mean, usually I tell people I live in New York since...
I totally identify. When I was growing up, because I grew up in Westchester County, which doesn't sound nearly as cool as saying New York City, and although I was about 5 miles away from the Bronx border where I grew up, I was from the suburbs. I wasn't from the Bronx, and that really pissed me off. So when I would travel, I gave myself a rule, like 100 miles away from New Rochelle, my hometown. I would say, "Oh, I'm just from the Bronx, man," and I felt a lot cooler saying that. So I get it. But anyway, you are from New Jersey. You can't hide that. It's not the end of the world. It's almost New York.
Well, being from New Jersey, living in New Jersey right now, I was bound to the New Jersey Senate.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Senate election.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, that makes sense. You're a voter in New Jersey.
I have to vote for the Senate in New Jersey. I can't vote in the governor elections in New York or in Florida or wherever. I have to vote in New Jersey.
Right.
So that's how it works. Yeah. So, you know, the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate were sort of like, I don't want to vote for either of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans probably felt that way.
I mean, you had
a few of the last elections.
Right. I mean, the Republican candidate on the Senate, running for Senate, is an ex-Big Pharma exec, and everyone hates those.
Yep. Spoken from the guy who knows firsthand, and the guy who knows firsthand about the pharmaceutical industry.
Yes, well, so, and then the Democrat was under corruption charges last year.
Wow.
Or 2 years ago.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place there.
I mean, like, what do?
You move. You become an expat. No, I mean an ex-Jersey.
Well, unfortunately, most of the races in this country, the Republican and the Democrat aren't great candidates. So, you're forced to look elsewhere. But unfortunately, in my case, the Libertarian candidate, which I voted for, Murray Sabrin, who's, on paper, he looks like he's a great candidate.
Good guy, yep.
I believe in, I know he's a professor at Ramapo College, which is a respectable college in New Jersey. I believe he's an economics professor. I'm not entirely sure.
Don't quote us on that, ladies and gentlemen.
But, he's a pretty good candidate. He wants to put money back into people's pockets.
That's probably
by
that's
reducing
where I prefer it.
taxes. He wants to rein in spending. That's sort of how you gotta, those are the guys we should be looking for.
That's exactly. We shouldn't be going over people's criminal records or, what special interest groups they've lobbied for in the past. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, we shouldn't.
Those obviously are determining factors, but if that's all you got, that's standing out, then there should be a third option.
Yeah, look. To me, if you're a former big pharma exec, that's a big no-no, and, that sort of disqualifies you. Unless, like in certain cases, maybe everyone's a former big pharma exec, and then
you choose a lesser.
You choose the best candidate.
Right.
But, in this case, unfortunately, fortunately, there were other choices. But unfortunately, the way this country is with the two-party system, people get afraid to vote for the third party.
Right.
Which, we could, there are many ways to fix that, I think. But
one is that you just draw a smiley face on the ballot, which is what I did. I just circled the dots in a big smiley face, and whoever that.
Or you could just write in a funny name.
Oh, always. Farty McGee was one of my favorite candidate choices this year. I don't know if you know, he was running on the
good name.
He's Recticalian Party.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a small party. You don't know. It's not, doesn't get that much.
All right, so let's move on to your home state.
So my home state of New York is a place in the northeastern United States.
Right next to New Jersey.
It's right next to it. Well, the southern part is. The rest of it is next to other parts of the country. Like Vermont and Pennsylvania and Connecticut.
But the part that matters is next to New Jersey.
Right, the coolest part. That's not true. I love New York. New York State is beautiful, but so is New Jersey. You guys had Action Park.
Yes, Action Park.
Well, they used to. Yeah, they killed people. That's pretty sweet. I hope some of that got on video somewhere. Maybe I can find that on the dark web when I go on it later. Or, also, if you freaking have
Swamps.
Diggerland, swamps.
Yeah. You never knew that?
There's not swamps in Jersey. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole place is one big fucking armpit.
No, but you didn't know that when
I'm pretty swampy.
when Siri first came out for the phone.
Yes.
The iPhone.
Good friend of mine. Yep.
You could ask Siri, if you were in New Jersey, you could ask Siri where you can bury dead bodies. And Siri would answer, there are multiple swamps in the area.
Wait a minute.
Now you can.
How do you know you can't now?
Because I've tried.
Let's ask her. Let's try anyway. Siri, where can I bury dead bodies in New Jersey?
Very funny.
Oh, well, at least she thought I was funny. I don't know. I bet that was more amusing than any of the other things I've said so far to anybody that's listening.
So,
I do want to say one thing too. I was going to say Diggerland, but I don't know if you guys.
I've never heard of that.
It's not a big deal. You could drive construction vehicles around and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's like Six Flags, but with construction vehicles, apparently. Dude, like, babies? Do you know what a baby is?
Kind of. I mean, I think probably has something to do with the 70 million gender pronouns we have.
That's very accurate, actually. Good job. Yeah, apparently I think I was reading an article in Oregon. Some parents are deciding to let their children, from the time that they're born, decide what gender they are, which to each his own. If that's a parenting strategy that you find that would be most effective and granting your children the freedom to make certain decisions for themselves from the earliest age possible, even when they probably don't even understand what the fuck we're talking about right now, that's fine. That's totally cool. But I do want to point out one thing about that. This is the funny part, is that if you want to be a parent and say, oh, you know what? I am going to let my child decide what gender they are. Isn't that making a decision for your children already?
That's a very deep question.
And I think it's got a simple answer, which is yes. So, in fact, you are actually taking the rights of your children away by making that decision. So, in reality, I think it defeats its own purpose.
I mean, I think, listen, there have been a lot of studies done saying that a lot of people who transition at a young age regret the decision because it's, for whatever reason, I don't know, but maybe, when you're a kid, sometimes you don't fully understand the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, and I don't want to speak for anyone except myself, and I'm granted very limited in this realm of knowledge, but it would seem to me that based off of my own personal experience of being a kid, we don't have the ability at an early age to make such monumental decisions because my mind changed a lot growing up. I mean, there was a time when I really did believe that G.I. Joes were real and that I was one of them. And that when I played G.I. Joes, I was actually like inside of the G.I. Joe world. And then it took me I even got a tattoo on my back of the Cobra insignia because I like G.I. Joes that much. But I know today that they're not real. They're just They're toys. But so what I'm saying is that our minds change. We mature. We get a more serious grasp on our reality, on the world. So how can we choose such huge, make such big choices so early on when we're still so malleable, impressionable, naive, and immature? So that makes sense. Is what you're saying to me? If that statistic is true, that would absolutely make sense to me. There would be a lot of regret.
I mean, look, scientists believe now that our prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until we're 25.
Wow.
So,
what does that mean exactly? Do you know what that?
Basically, our decision making.
Shit.
Doesn't really, whatever. I mean, I'm sure that's not for everyone. Like there are people who are much more mature than others at the same age.
Right.
That's just. But I think if that's. I think that's probably a good baseline for something that is so life-changing and irreversible. Exactly.
There's one way. People talk about it's a two-way street. That one's a one-way street. It's interesting too because I went to an endocrinologist, not to make this all about me, of course, but I went to an endocrinologist when I was younger because I was behind in puberty, and he said I was definitely a few years behind. So I can only imagine that if that was the case, and that also translated to my brain development too, that I probably wasn't able to start making rational decisions until I was like in my late 20s, and I was a drug addict for a long time, so I definitely stunted my growth. So shit, I'm 34. I think I'm about to start making some decisions.
Maybe hold off.
I might hold off. I think I'm going to hold off a little bit. You're probably not too. You're probably pretty accurate with that. I've made some crazy decisions over the last number of years. But we can get into that in another episode.
Yeah, there's a lot we need to cover. In this episode.
Well, let's keep going. Let's keep rolling right along. I just thought of that this week, and I just wanted to bring that up about the babies because I have very little. There's very little that I hate. I don't try and give that much emotion to anything. I don't want anything to rent space that much in my head that I say I hate, because when you make such a stand as to say I hate this thing, that's actually taking up a small percentage of my brain because I have to use that part of my brain to always remember, oh, that's the thing that I hate. So I don't really give a shit. I don't care. All I really care about is my health, my happiness, my family, and, trying to make my life meaningful. The rest of it, it's like, who gives a shit? Yeah. So I don't say I hate. But I do think it's pretty asinine to make very blanket statements that are completely hypocritical and that really, really do affect other people's lives, like especially children. So that's why I wanted to say that. I don't know if anybody was considering bringing up a baby that's listening to us, but maybe there's another side to that.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to say, like, you're not anything specific, but it's another thing, like, there are reports of, like, parents giving hormone blockers to kids who are, like, 7.
Huh.
So they,
that's
don't
abuse.
Reach puberty, and
that's child abuse, man.
So it's those kinds of things that,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. It's a little. It gets into a territory where you're not just,
having your own set of beliefs. You're actually you're actually implanting them into somebody else, literally.
Well, not even that, because I mean, these kids are usually like
they're
promoting stuff.
I see.
And,
right, so the parents think
like,
they're helping them
in certain ways. The parents, probably
think they're doing the right
helping
thing.
them.
Well, but that's where I'm not a parent, but it seems to me that you would need to kind of use some rationale and say, wait a minute, you might be having this crisis, but let's hold on for a second here.
And it's also when you're dealing with kids that young, you're stepping into some territory that's not, you want to be respectful to people and what they want, but when you're giving hormone blockers to young boys so they don't reach puberty and develop Adam's apples or whatever testosterone that men need.
Right. That has.
And then you're sort of taking that it's a
you're manipulating biology, and you're manipulating biology. Basically, you're playing God, A, and B, you're stepping into...
And it's something that, if it is something where the kid realizes later on, 5-10 years later that, they're just gay or something, and they don't really identify as a girl or whatever, then, it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that, I don't think we've had enough experience as a society yet to really know that if, what's the long-term implications of this, and I think, again, it's like, we shouldn't take anyone's life, especially not a young impressionable child's life, into the hands of science that's maybe doesn't have as much research around it, whether neurologically or psychologically or biologically. I think it's just kind of playing Russian roulette a little bit. So yeah, that's how we feel about that.
Right. So let's jump back into the New York.
Oh, right. We were talking about
elections.
Politics and the election. There's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
Another thing. No, I'm just kidding.
So there was a little. I thought there was a really good candidate for governor in New York, in this guy named Larry Sharpe.
Now, what political affiliation did he have?
He was also a libertarian.
You really like your liberty? Are you infatuated with the Statue of Liberty? Is that why you like libertarians so much? You have a thing
I like
for the
freedom.
Statue of Liberty? What?
I like freedom.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just like Lady Liberty, and you and her were like, I like your robe and shit. You green as hell. Shit, you looking good in that, holding that torch up. I like my Amazonian women and shit. Them big, tall ladies. I thought that's what you were saying. I like a lot of libertarian. Never mind. But yeah, what happened with Larry Sharpe? Right? I feel like I was seeing some ads on Facebook, and then all of a sudden I wasn't.
Yeah, so apparently on Monday, Facebook decided to pull Larry Sharpe's ads.
What were they thinking?
So, I don't know. I mean, I had heard by someone that they did that to everyone, but then I had heard that on Tuesday, they put the ads back up for Larry Sharpe. So clearly they didn't do it to everyone and received a lot of backlash.
Hmm.
And I mean, listen, Larry Sharp, I think he ran a really good, smart campaign, and I think, he did what I think a lot of politicians should do. He went on a lot of podcasts. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Wasn't on our podcast.
Well, to be fair, we had 3 episodes.
I guess you're right.
So he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was on Dave Rubin's podcast. And I mean, I think those long form mediums are good for politicians to get their message across.
Absolutely. I mean,
because, what do you really learn in a debate from someone?
Nothing except how much the media sucks. That's what I learned from a debate. That's what I learned. Oh my God! So at one of my jobs, my office, they play news 24/7, and it is painful. It's painful, man. It's like, oh God! It's how many times can you say the same thing over and over again, and expect a different answer? It's insanity. That's what it is. It's just plain. It makes me crazy to listen to it. I actually have to get up and walk out of the room sometimes because it's just so repetitive. It's so redundant, and the fucking the debates. It's bullshit. Where's the humanity? Where's the information? It's nothing. It's just talking. Talking is nothing. What we're doing right now, it's great and it's therapeutic, maybe for you and I more than anybody else. But it's not. We're not doing anything right now. We're just talking, and you're listening. And maybe if Tori says something that's useful, you'll go and you'll think about it for a little while. Maybe it'll put a smile on your face, or maybe it'll change your attitude for a little while. But it's not really doing anything. And that's what these people are doing. They're just talking. It's not doing anything. Right. And then they get in an office and then they don't do anything. There's more talk. So it's just why are we giving so much credit? Why are we giving so much power to these platforms? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I don't hate it. I freaking don't hate it. Okay, I freaking don't. Okay, it's not hate. It's just disappointment. No, it might be a little hate. It's a little hate. I hate the media. I do not currently like the media. I'm mad at you, media.
I'm mad at you, media. I just love how on Friday they'll have something, they'll say breaking news, and it's something that happened on Tuesday. How's that breaking news?
Right.
I've known about it since Tuesday.
Right. You're breaking my ass right now because you know why? Because you're making me fart. That's the only breaking that's going on here is breaking wind.
Yeah, so so I think, getting back to Larry Sharp, I think he did a really good job going on, putting himself out there, because...
In a non-traditional way.
And explaining his ideas. And, one of the things that really impressed me is that, I listened to his appearance on Joe Rogan, and, he's... One of his positions was opening up more choices for schools.
Okay.
Giving more choice to parents and kids to choose. Because
how do you do that? Isn't there a finite number of teachers that can teach a finite number of things?
It's more like if you, like, where I grew up, there were
Sorry.
4 elementary schools.
Okay.
And depending on where you lived in the town,
yeah,
that's the school you went to.
Same experience for me.
Right.
When I was in elementary school.
So, and fortunately, all the schools were great. So it didn't really matter for us because we got good education no matter what school you went to.
Okay.
But if you happen to live in a town where there aren't good schools, good public schools, your only choice is to go to private school and pay a lot of money.
Right.
So, like, why shouldn't you be able to go to the school in the next town over that may have a better
right? Your border shouldn't necessarily determine where you go.
Listen, maybe maybe you have to pay a little or do something. Like I know I have cousins that grew up in the city, and in the city, because there's so many schools in the city,
Mm-hmm.
so for middle school and high school, you take a test, and sort of like the SATs.
Right.
And then you apply to public schools, public middle schools and public high schools. And you can get in and they can accept you, based on your scores or whatever their criteria is. And that seems like a really good option to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, but anyway, he sort of wasn't explaining himself. Him and Joe Rogan sort of couldn't see. They were sort of butting heads. And listening to it, I felt that, Rogan's a smart guy. So, I felt that if he couldn't, I understood where Larry Sharp was coming from because, he's talking about an area in which I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe Rogan living in California, and, things are different there. So, and, so I felt Larry Sharp didn't do a great job of articulating what he was getting at, putting it the right way.
Okay.
And I later heard Larry Sharp on another episode of another podcast, and he brought that up. He said, I kind of feel like I didn't explain myself well enough in that podcast regarding the education.
Which is very honest and very humble of him to say that.
Right.
Right.
And
you saw the real person there.
Right. So,
and his his fallibility, which is what we want to see. We don't want to see these perfect people that are presenting themselves as perfect people that are going to be perfect all the time, which is another reason why, well, we don't want to get into the whole Trump arena, but, nobody's perfect, and people, you cannot, just because you're in a position of power doesn't mean that you cannot solely be judged on your candor, you cannot solely be judged on your appearance, and you cannot solely be judged on your record. I mean, your criminal record, yes, if you have one, that's probably not great. But people make mistakes. We want to see humanity. We want to see a sense of normalcy, imperfection. Because, when we hold these people up to this high standard, A, it's unattainable and it's not real. And B, our expectations of what we think, what kind of people we want running the country will never, it'll never be practical. It'll never be solidified in reality, because the truth is we think that these perfect personas are the people that are in politics, and that's a lot of P sounds in one sentence. But pop, 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 pop. No, but the people that wind up there are not great people, usually. And when they pretend to be that way, it perpetuates, oh my God, how many P's? It perpetuates this idea that there's this attainable perfection for anybody. And it's not true. It's not true. And so that then when they do make mistakes, and it's like, and then we're so quick to blame. But you know what? They were never perfect to begin with. So I appreciate that someone like Larry Sharpe came out and said that and made a mistake and was just being a normal person, because that's what they are. They're people. They're normal people.
Right. So anyway, I mean, the polling numbers for
polling. You just said another P word.
So anyway, when Larry Sharpe, because he was a third-party candidate, people didn't know who he was.
Right.
Unless you pay attention.
I voted for him. I'll tell you that much.
What
do you want to know, baby? What?
That's because I told you to.
That's true. That's the only reason I did.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
Shh.
So
I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. No, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm always about the first to say it. Shit.
Right. So anyway,
this guy does. Listen to him. That's why we're letting him talk.
So anyway, people who knew about him, he was polling very favorably. Like 25-30% said they would vote for him. But that was of people that knew about him.
Right.
So who knew?
And why did not more people know about him? Because it's a two-party system.
And yeah.
And Facebook fucked us.
They won't allow. I don't know how much the Facebook thing had to do with it, because it was only a day before. So
right, that's not.
Most people know who they're choosing
by that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people accept Noah Fleiss.
So anyway, no one really knew how much of the vote he would get, because he wasn't on traditional polls, and he wasn't in the debates. He wasn't allowed on the debate stage. Stuff like that. He wasn't. So
bullshit.
Right, and so he ended up getting, I think, 1.6% of the vote, which is pretty good for a third-party candidate.
Yeah.
Most of them, I think, Murray Sabrin got 0.7%.
Wow, yeah.
So, it's
like double.
Yeah, I think he probably got a lot of people that are sort of on the fence to vote for him. The problem is, I think a lot of the people that wanted to vote for him were scared off by the rhetoric of, you can't waste your vote. You can't vote for a third party and waste your vote.
Right.
You have to vote for the Democrat or the Republican.
Right, which is ridiculous.
Which is all I was hearing this election cycle.
Right, you can't waste the vote. That's what happened in the last election. Can't do it this time.
But that's the same thing they say every single election. they say, well, this election's too important.
Right. Well, every election's important.
I mean, but at the end of the day, you knew Andrew Cuomo was going to win. You're in New York.
Right. Right. Which is part of the reason why I waited so long to vote, because I knew it was like, well, what's the point anyway, really? And I bet a lot of people felt that way.
Right. I mean, I felt that it was important to vote for a third party candidate, even though, you know, they had no chance of winning. Just because I think the more votes the third party gets, the more relevant they look in people's eyes.
In the future, especially. Yeah, and I think too, you know, it's the time we got to start listening to our hearts. We got to start finding our inner voice and not jumping on this bandwagon. You know, we got to continue to manifest and create our own individuality. We are not lemmings. We are not, you know, just worker bees. We have our own personal contribution to make to society and our own ability to think reasonably and rationally on our own without having to be influenced by any outside source. The outside sources that should influence us are our experience as human beings living each day. So we don't need to put ourselves into a box. We don't need to follow the person in front of us. We can go our own way. Fleetwood Mac made a whole song about that. You can go your own way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a lot
I was hoping we would go into another song there, but I guess you didn't really feel
You can go your own way. Go your own way. No, so... so anyway, yeah, I mean, look. I was following the New York election, you know,
get out of my state,
checking
dude.
it.
Like, this is my state. It's my election, dude.
Well,
get out of my election.
So, because my theory is that if everyone that wants to vote for a third party can come together for one election and decide on one candidate to vote for, you know, they can get a lot of votes.
Right.
And because, look, the reality is that the first couple of people that get voted in on a third party, they're not going to get anything done. No one's going to allow them to do anything.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're a Green Party voter and you're voting and everyone decides to vote for the Libertarian, or you're a Libertarian and everyone decides to vote for the Green Party candidate. You know, just get the third party in the forefront.
So that we can start to have a third-party system.
Right. I mean, because I think there were like 5 third-party candidates running for governor in New York. And total, they got like 5 to 5.5% of the vote. So
it was split.
Right. But if everyone came together and voted for one candidate and they got 5 to 5.5%, maybe the next election, people will go, wait, we can do this. We can vote and not.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the interesting point you're bringing up, which is that, you know, it does seem like people are starting to wake up to the fact that we don't have to just make one decision and stick with it and have that be it. My vision for utopia would be that there's no such thing as different states and different countries. It's Earth. That's it. We're all Earthlings. It's humanity. That's the common denominator. Doesn't matter where we're from. We can't do that yet because our world is too fucked up.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to do it.
We may
just
not be.
Because I think we're too different. I mean, we're the same.
Yes.
We're the same, but
yes, currently
we're too different.
Currently, we are way too different ideologically. We have way too many different cultures going on, and everything's way jumbled up. But I will mark my words. There will come a point, if our civilization can survive long enough, that we will come to a point when Earth is just one piece of the puzzle. There's going to be we're not going to be able to stay on Earth forever. So we're going to live elsewhere.
Mars.
Maybe Mars, maybe somewhere further, maybe another moon of another planet or whatever. Doesn't matter. We're not going to be able to stay here forever. Our resources will run out.
Dark side of the moon.
Yeah, maybe with the rest of the aliens that Neil Armstrong saw when he went up there.
Or Pink Floyd.
Yeah, well, definitely. We were told we were Pink Floyd on our last episode by our guest Jordan Bronstein, and we're going to have more guests, ladies and gentlemen, next week. You tune in. Mark my words for this. Also, just do a lot of get your markers out and mark all these words I'm saying, because we're going to have another guest on our episode for next week. So please tune in for that. There'll be another exciting guest. But in the meantime, you want to pay attention to the fact that what I'm saying is a possibility for the future. Because when we do find out that there are other civilizations out there in this universe, it's not going to matter what religion you are, where I grew up, what state you're from, who you voted for, because we're all going to have to band together, because it's just going to be about Earth. It's going to be Earthlings. Whether that's a peaceful confrontation we have, or whether it's a not peaceful confrontation, it's going to be Earth and then plus. So that's the direction that we need to head in. That's the direction we started at. We started from that. We started from one seed of human being, and now here we are, and we're all so different. We kill each other for no fucking reason. We split our countries up. They
did that back then too.
But it took a while to get to that point. Yes. Well, okay, fine. You want to say that? That's true. But before that, there was, depending on whether or not you believe in the Bible, there was Adam and Eve, let's say, right? There was just two people. They started as a unit, and then, or if you want to believe in evolution, animals, when the first humans started to be created, there were only a few of them, right? They've had to morph and mutate into human beings. There were only a few of them, right? So it starts as one, and we will end as one. Okay. And with that, we're almost out of time, aren't we, Tori?
Yeah, I think we should touch on Jeff Sessions.
Okay, we have 7 minutes. 7 minutes in Sessions instead of 7 minutes in heaven. Okay.
I
don't want to spend any time in Jeff Sessions. I'll tell you that right now. I don't care how fine he is.
No.
All right.
So, that was sort of the big news the day after the election, was that Jeff Sessions resigned, whatever that means, because people resign as a way to save face. It's
right. There's all kinds of motivations. Sure.
All we know is that Jeff Sessions is no longer the Attorney General of the United States.
Right. Now there's some weird big bald dude.
Yeah.
Whitaker, right?
Yeah, Whitaker. So
I know what I'm talking about.
So anyway, everyone should be really happy about that.
Yeah, even me.
Because Jeff Sessions was not a good dude.
No.
He basically wanted to hold the country back.
He wanted to hold the whole country accountable and hostage for shit because he was against the Corrections Act. What was the name of
the Federal Corrections Act or something?
Something like that, yeah, where he just wanted to basically criminalize everything.
He wanted to keep nonviolent criminals in jail.
Exactly. Which we all know at this point is just a fucking money-making scheme and bullshit. It's, keeps...
Right, and one of the big things that was surrounding him when he was first named to the job or appointed before he was confirmed was that, all the progress this country has made towards legalizing marijuana on a federal level, because, by that time, a bunch of states had legalized it already.
It's like 32, I think.
Yeah, on various levels, states had legalized it.
Now it's up to 35?
Well, I'm not sure if that 32 number included the states that legalized it during the 2016 election.
Okay.
So it could be even more than 35.
So it's at least 7/10 of the country.
Yes, it's a lot of the country.
Math. Okay, yeah.
A lot of the country, and
you got Mexico almost jumping on the bandwagon too now.
Right. And, Trump had hinted at... First, there have been rumors for a while that Sessions was on his way out. And in the past, month or two, Trump has sent hints that he was open to the idea of rescheduling or descheduling marijuana. Because right now, it's a Schedule I drug, which means there are no medical benefits, and you can't even test it.
Ridiculous.
Which... yeah, it's ridiculous because obviously there are medical benefits.
Right.
Why would states legalize it for medical purposes?
Right. If there was no... yeah.
Yeah, so, it's ridiculous. So
now with Sessions gone, we could maybe clear the way a little bit for some more leniency with marijuana.
Right, hopefully. And listen... Canada just legalized it recreationally a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
There's rumors of the new president in Mexico wanting to at least decriminalize it.
Smart move.
So, does Trump really want to say...
He's the monkey in the middle.
Does Trump really want to let Mexico beat him to the punch?
I don't think Trump wants that. I don't know him personally, but just from what I can see, I think his ego is a little too big to let that happen. And I think we can all benefit from that ego for once in a while, for once.
Yeah, things haven't been... maybe he's done... we
got a lot of jobs.
There are some things he's done that have been good, like North Korea, the whole...
opening the talks up.
Yeah. I don't think that would have happened if he wasn't the president.
Yeah.
Because, things were getting pretty dicey there for a while.
Yep.
So, that's one of the good things he did. And, listen, if he legalizes marijuana...
he'll go down in the history books.
That leaps him up the list pretty fast.
Well, that's why
in most people's minds.
And we cannot write off the fact that, A, people can change. and B, you shouldn't necessarily count your chickens before they hatch with this guy because, if we know one thing about President Trump is that he's pretty unpredictable. So for the people that hate him vehemently, he might just be the first president to legalize marijuana.
And, I mean, listen, if, people always say that, the last 2 years of the presidency, that's when you see what the president really wants to do, because they have nothing to lose.
Right.
So, maybe Trump doesn't really care if he gets reelected. I mean, he doesn't.
I think he just needs
he has the status.
Yeah.
He's Trump.
He's going to be tired. He's an old man.
He's going to be like 75.
And he's probably getting really high from all the... If he thought he needed hairspray just to leave the house beforehand. Well, now I saw a clip of him. I mean, he's got the Air Force One helicopter ready to take off. His hair's blowing all over the place, but it doesn't move. We get the chopper spinning so much hairspray. So he's probably half delusional at this point. I mean, he definitely has brain damage, but now he's really got
some
CFCs floating around in his
So I mean, now that the midterms are out of the way, and if he doesn't care about winning re-election, he has 2 years to pretty much do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And I mean, the majority of the people in this country support legalizing marijuana in some form.
Absolutely. There's every reason to do it. There's very few not to.
So,
that's from a sober man.
Well, I mean, I don't think most of them are thinking about, what the implications would be towards, the crime in this country, the gang crime and, the cartels in Mexico and people.
Right, you're thinking about making some money.
There's a lot of implications legalizing marijuana has, aside from people just want to do it and it doesn't really harm.
Right, if alcohol is legal, weed should be legal. Plain and simple. Alcohol causes more death and destruction than any substance. So therefore, you want to smoke a joint at home with your cat? Go right ahead, dude. Please, I wish you would.
If you want to give your cat the joint?
Yeah.
Why not?
It likes catnip. I mean, it's practically the same thing. So, all right, well, we're kind of running out of time here. What do you think? Do you think we covered all the bases for today? Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, I think just, make sure you share us. We have a Facebook page. We have a Twitter account. We have an Instagram account that I'm still trying to figure out what to do. Because,
you owe me a Coke. Yeah, guys, check us out. Vote and rate us, please. If you're watching this and you've seen this far in already, you obviously are into it a little bit, or you really have a huge crush on Tory. And either way, just whether you're, a baby or anybody, just vote, rate us on your favorite listening or watching platform, so we get some ratings.
And we'll be putting this up on YouTube too.
Yes, clearly, because we want to see our beautiful faces, and you want to put some faces to some names.
Right.
And you want to know a little bit more about us. So if you do want to know a little more about us, go back and listen to some of our first episodes. You can learn a little bit more about
we'll be putting up those on YouTube too. They don't have video, but who cares?
You can listen with your eyes.
Yes.
And hear with your ear. No. Listen with your eyes and see with your ears. I want to tell you a quick funny story. So I was sitting in my car on 33rd in Lexington the other night, and some guy came up and just literally, with a Sony camera, flashed his camera in my face, and then walked around the back of my car and snapped a photo of the back of my car. I thought it was very weird, and immediately my first thought was, "Oh my God, the government's watching." Yeah, well, that too. I mean, hopefully he's just a diehard
And somehow
fan.
they know who you are,
Yeah,
even
I don't
though
know. Right.
there's
What?
no video.
But if you're listening, sir, we're watching you, young man.
Maybe you fit the description of a criminal.
Well, that's true, but I felt more like it's probably because we're telling people to think for themselves. And they don't like that. They don't like that, the NSA and people like that. They want us to be put into a box. And I don't want to be in a box.
I don't think you're supposed to say that.
Oh, well then we can press rewind. Right? We'll never do that. This is about freedom, like Tori said. Freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom for me to wear jeans that are tight or loose so you can see what religion I am, like Robin Williams, the late, great Robin Williams said in one of his stand-up comic routines. Brilliant man, left us too soon. So if you or someone you know is struggling in some way, shape, or form, please blow up their spot. Save their life. Really. Or your own. Right? Right. That's a good way to end. A little PSA. We love you. Thanks for tuning in. And keep the conspiracies going for the thinking man.
And don't forget to share us.
And don't forget to rate us. Not rape us. We won't like the way that felt. Rate with a T.
Well, maybe
Tom.
if they're really hot.
If they're really hot, yeah, you could rape the shit out of us right through your screen. Please. I wish you would. Bye-bye.